Welcome to the Visionary Chronicles, a business strategy podcast where we provide insight to those looking for creative, executable strategies built around the latest disruptive ideas, innovative cultures, product creators, and marketing solutions. Hello and welcome to the Visionary Chronicles. Today we're going to talk further on my new book I just released. I guess it's going on a year and a half right now, The Visionary Brand, the success formula behind the world's most visionary brands. Reader's favorite award winner, best nonfiction marketing book. Thank you so much for that award. Also an Amazon bestseller. So today we're going to talk about the fuel, the marketing side of the business, how to create a visionary marketing strategy. This is probably the chapter that we get the most questions on when we have the book out there and people have read it, looking for feedback, how to integrate the things we talk about in the book into their business. And so I think the fuel is one where most people are trying to understand the future of marketing strategy, especially when we talk about artificial intelligence. And I just released a podcast. If you haven't listened to it yet, I've got a couple editions with how to integrate further your marketing strategy with artificial intelligence. So that's a separate podcast, but one that kind of meshes with what we're going to talk about today. Now, today we're going to talk about the fuel, which I love the words the fuel, because for me, nothing goes anywhere without fuel. So Seth Godin, I thought, had a great quote where he said, in a crowded marketplace, fitting in is a failure. In a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. So you have to stand out in this crowd today. We know that people are busy and attention spans are only decreasing, not increasing. So that's why we talk about in a separate podcast, artificial intelligence and more in depth, kind of this, what I call taking it down to the 2,000 foot level. And it gives you kind of a more granular idea of how to implement artificial intelligence. But today we're going to talk about that kind of 30, 40,000 foot level of how a brand drives this effective visionary marketing strategy from the book. And so the fuel is what drives great brands to market aspirational products, create and grow an authentic culture, and further solidify their premium positioning. Again, that's how I like to define each chapter in the book as we go through it, is that, again, the fuel drives great brands to market aspirational products, create and grow an authentic culture, and further solidify their premium positioning. I think that's a great statement. What I tried to do there, and hopefully everybody understands that, is that kind of meshing with what you're looking to achieve with your brand, number one. And if you are a brand, and you're a generational brand, you don't really have this problem. You've already got the premium positioning. And as long as you stay authentic to your culture, or what we call your community, you should continue to succeed. But what about those brands that don't have an authentic culture, that aren't premium? It becomes way more difficult for them to achieve this status of being premium in the marketplace. Now, what about those that are startups? This is really a good statement for those that are startups, is that marketing aspirational products, create and grow an authentic culture, and further solidify your premium positioning. So what you're looking to do with the fuel is continue with these aspirational products. Continue to build what I call this product pipeline of innovation. This disruption. I mean, disruption, as I defined it earlier, is really innovation on steroids. It's really a case of revolutionizing a market. And when you look at the fuel, it's really looking at how do we, number one, continue to build our brand as aspirational and inspirational for our community and our culture and those consumers who are purchasing our product. And remember, if you're a premium or aspirational brand, you're marketing a lifestyle as much as you are a product. As soon as you start marketing a product with no point of difference as to how it's going to build a value into your consumer's lifestyle, you become a commodity. So be careful on your marketing. You want to make sure that you're selling a lifestyle as much as you're selling a product. The lifestyle can also include, by the way, value. And what I mean by value is, let's just say again, I use the example again and again of running. is how do you make your customer a better runner? It has nothing to do with the product. Your ulterior motive is to sell product, but really, in order to be authentic, you have to be an authentic run brand. So how do you do that? You want to be able to provide articles, information, data, whatever it happens to be about maybe it's the pace, maybe it's the stride, maybe it is the shoes, maybe it's the insoles, maybe it's the weight, maybe it's your apparel. So all of these things need to be defined as a value to your customer beyond your product because you're selling a lifestyle. So that's how these great brands, the fuel that they put into their engine is really something that provides value to their consumer and also personalizes the experience for them. So the synergy realized through the power triad, and if those who have read the book or listened to the podcast on the visionary brand know that the power triad is product, marketing, and sales. But inevitably it concludes with a successful product launch and broad acceptance by your core consumer. The fuel you inject into the brand during this process takes the form of visionary marketing across all levels of your brand, communications and consumer engagements, both visually and verbally. And to give you a little bit of context on this is that when you look at your brand and you're looking to market your brand, understand people look at your brand from the inside out and also outside in, meaning that they look at the customer experience. And everybody knows bad experience with a great product is still a bad experience. What you want to have is a great experience journey versus just a bad experience. And we know that not only is the attention span very short, but people's aggravation is also very short. So we know that good news spreads much less quickly than bad news. So just don't give them an excuse to put bad news out there. Continue to provide great service, and eventually they will start providing feedback to those in your community as well as those outside your community, and that's how you build a loyal following with the fuel. So again, the fuel you inject into your brand takes the form of visionary marketing across all levels of your brand, communications, consumer engagements, both visually and verbally. And the other side of this is that whether it's the low end of the totem pole on your employees or the high end of your totem pole, everybody should have the same passion around the vision you have for your brand, and it should be carried through the fuel and the marketing that you inject into your brand, your products, communication from the outside in as well as the outside or the inside out. And every day you should be injected with what your brand stands for, passionately driving brand equity for the brand as you continue to grow it. So the motivation and enthusiasm for your brand's foundational principles keeps your customers coming back and your team passionately driving towards your future. So we talked about in earlier podcasts about foundational principles. This is one of the foundational principles, or that foundation that your brand is built on that doesn't change. Now you may pivot, but your principles stay the same. Your values can change, but the principles have to be the foundation of what your brand stands for. So when you're looking at this is what drives your customers and your engagement and a passionate team behind your brand. All of those are extremely valuable, and all of these are driven by the fuel inside of the company that you inject. So the fuel, the marketing strategy that drives your brand has become one of the most important pieces of long-term growth and generational success. The Nikes of the world, the Adidases of the world, whatever it may be, your product, your service, and were there components of successfully gaining market share and growing the brand equity through your customers' loyalty. So you want to make sure that while the continual progression of this digital marketplace, the engagement across advertising platforms, digital, social, all of these things coming at you from a marketing executive strategy that you're looking to deploy, all of these things have increased the time frame which you can impact your customer while their attention span has steadily decreased, things that you can do from a marketing strategy perspective has increased. So it's a multiplier effect. So you have to eliminate that which should not be part of your marketing strategy so you can focus on things that should be part of your marketing strategy. That which is going to set the future of your brand and anchor the principles of what you stand for long term. So with this, it kind of provides this, what I call this challenging backdrop for a brand, looking to move out of this noise, I call it, and into their own quiet space. So you really have to cut through the noise, but don't be distracted by the noise. There's plenty of quiet spaces out there. There's plenty of what I call this open water. Stay out of these shark-infested waters. I don't think we talked about it from a product perspective, but it's the same thing with marketing. Be different. Think different than other people and how you can impact your community, provide value to your consumers, and build an innovation pipeline at the same time. So being authentic is part of the way of doing that. So when you get to your quiet space, you need to find a way to connect quickly through these, what we call aspirational messages with your authentic products. And we say authentic, and there's this authentic culture inside a brand, but there's also authentic products. We talked about providing value to runners, but also being able to provide a performance product that matches the expectations of runners is the other piece of the puzzle. And I go back to the Under Armour story that's in the book as well as a case study on their football cleats where marketing got ahead of product. And you'll see in the power triad that the lead is always product. If the product's not ready, don't release it. That's an easy formula for success. And there may be a drag on commercializing the product, but if it doesn't manage your principles or the expectation of your customer and exceeding the expectation of your customer, don't release it. Under Armour released the football cleats early. And as a result, it was an inferior product. It degraded the brand equity that took them over a decade to get back. So be very careful on how you manage the fuel with your company because it can run out fast. So if fuel runs out if you don't top it off now and then. So this destiny, this strategy of how you wanted to deploy this marketing strategy must be really carefully managed. So we wanted to talk about today was just how a brand not only builds this marketing strategy, but having been inside of global brands and working with global brands over the years, I can tell you that the generational brands that have had success have, number one, understood the core principles of what the brand stood for, that those don't change, the foundational principles. Number two, the values may change, but principles are anchored. Number three, they're always authentic in everything that they do. If they're a performance-driven premium brand, they're a performance premium-driven brand. So these are all principles that brands that are generational have in common. So this destiny is yours and how you want to manage it. Don't take shortcuts. And also, don't violate the principles of your brand. Where it should be or where it shouldn't be, make sure that it's in the proper channels, at the proper price point, at the proper tier. So this comes in the form of consistently reiterating your brand commitment to your ongoing financial principles and why you exist. You violate that, you violate your community, you violate your loyalty. And as a result, long-term customer value, that they no longer trust you. Now, you may think that's simplified, but it's not. When you do an inferior product, and there's case studies out there, an inferior product in a marketplace that's a disconnect from where your customers' expectations are, breaks loyalty. So carefully manage the fuel in your engine before you release a product. So this comes in form of, again, consistently reiterating your commitment to the principles of your brand, why you exist. So visionary brands constantly inject this into their brands in all areas, vertically integrated into their brand, consistently and constantly, both inside and outside the company. And I've come up with what I call these kind of 3-letter acronyms, and I've got 4 of them. And I thought they're really easy to remember and very important to integrate into your brand strategy. So number one is ABT. Always be thinking. And this goes to the design team, product team, whatever it is. Always find a quiet space to realize new ideas, generate concepts, engage with forces outside the four walls. That's Mother Nature. I often tell a story of Nike where they had the fly knit technology. And the inspiration for this was when the design team went out to look at Mother Nature and they saw a bridge, a suspension bridge. Now, you wouldn't think, well, what does a suspension bridge have to do with footwear? Well, it had a lot to do with footwear construction because they actually took how a suspension bridge worked dynamically and integrated that into the shoe. And that's what you see with fly knit technology now. And it allowed them to integrate knit uppers, which nobody thought at the time was possible, with suspension bridge technology. So always be thinking different. And number two is ABL, always be learning. I've been with brands and they're constantly 24/7 doing something other than learning. It's extremely important across all functional areas of the brand. Marketing in particular. With the evolution of AI, most brands were caught off guard. Always be in front of your vision or you'll be left behind. That's a given. So always be learning. Number three is ABD. Always be different. And always find a way. Always find a way to differentiate yourself from your competition. What I call find your open water. Don't be swimming in the ocean where there's shark-infested waters where it's bloodied. You may think that's an opportunity, but if you looked at it in reality, although more difficult, the opportunity is significantly better when you find your open waters. And there's plenty of opportunity, but always be different than your competition. Number four is ABR. Always be real. Always be authentic in all you do. Nobody has ever lasted being something they're not. And the great example that I have, and I loved this story with my time with Oakley, was the best time in my career, with Jim Gennard, the visionary founder of Oakley. And he always made a point of re-energizing the team, never letting us forget what we stood for as a brand. It was a strategy that built passion into everybody involved with the brand, and we protected it. So he'd give these inspirational speeches that build passion for the brand and pride into being part of this ongoing success. You always felt like you were a part of what Jim was creating and the vision that he had and executing it in the marketplace. So by injecting this brand inspiration into Oakley through visuals inside and outside the companies, posters, videos, sponsorship, verbal communications daily, Jim provided a great working experience and fostered pride in what we achieved. It was a great environment to be in and one that I'll never forget, and it carried with me to this day. And with any messaging, this is reinforced more with just words. You got to make sure that you go beyond just words. Visual is powerful. There's visual messaging that Jim would use throughout the headquarters. And I always thought that was interesting because I always thought, well, why is marketing and posters and everything inside the company? On the walls that we walk through, the gym that we had inside of Oakley, whatever it may be, and the people that passed through and the celebrities and the athletes that we had continually funneling through Oakley, I got it. It was a passion around the brand and what we stood for and the attitude that we had through those visuals. So having this throughout the headquarters was a passion that we had on a daily basis. This served as this kind of continual reminder of that dedication of the brand and the founder himself, Jim. And we had a mantra there, the bloodline, we call it, the injection is disruptive by design. That's a beautiful, even to this day, I think one of the greatest taglines I've ever seen. Probably only BMW eclipses that with the ultimate driving machine. But Oakley was a brand that, really disrupted and embraced it was done, not just the products, but in everything that we did each day, whether in products, processing, marketing, engagement, or just being different, from the rest. We succeeded where others failed. We didn't care what the competition was doing. They drove us to achieve global market share, dominating the sunglass category, achieving over $1 billion in sales. And eventually Jim sold it. He went on to run Red Digital and had another success. So having these visionary leaders that inspire the masses from the top down drives a passion for the brand and its loyalty to the foundation. And, you got to look at who supplies that fuel, this ongoing fuel, and it's always the leader of the brand that supplies the fuel that drives the passion for those that are working for the brand. Or otherwise, it's just a commodity. You just have a product, but you want to have more than just a product. So, what does this look like to add fuel to the brand? How does a visionary brand define, grow through messaging and positioning? But, these are all great questions that you have as you work through it. And they're questions you need to ask as you have a brand. Everybody's different, but you need to ask these questions. So regardless of the product, visionary brands can inject inspirational and aspirational lifestyle messaging for their consumers. And we'll talk about it in a minute, but Just Do It is that campaign. It was a aspirational messaging that inspired many people across all age groups and races. Whatever it was, everybody engaged with it. So it's a strong connecting point in their daily lives that they had at the time. This connection point eventually turns into your community where the consumer's loyalty to your brand starts. So the intention here, if you're just starting out, keep in mind that this authentication, building this strategy around your marketing and brand bloodlines, knowing who you are and what you do and how you're going to achieve it is important and significantly more important than the product itself. Everybody has great product. Great product with a bad customer purchase experience through their journey is a failure. A great product with great customer experience and journey is a success. So remember, look beyond product, and that's why the power triad is so important. The product, marketing, and sales. So this connecting point turns into your loyal community, your customers, loyalty to your brand starts there. So in this, let's just say this new age, this new digital age that we're in, the relationship starts. And you have to continue to inject into these customers the fuel that your brand stands for and build a passion around what you're doing. And if you don't, that's where it starts, but that's also where it can end. If you break trust, confuse your messaging, or disconnect with your core, this is a slow leak that can quickly become a gaping hole, flushing out all this great work you've done with it. I saw it with Under Armour, and I've seen it with other brands. So this idea of inspiring your customers to achieve more through your product's technology, service, whatever it may be, is extremely important to your brand success. It's where you build this dedication, this following, this lifetime customer value. So this destruction of brick and mortar retailer, creating, engaging with, and activating your base, this direct-to-consumer strategy on marketing, is all built around loyalty. It's all built around personalization. It's all built around trust. So it's integral to your long-term success that you have these pieces of the puzzle in place. And the reason that we bring it up and the reason I talk about it in the book is because too many people think about just great product. Too many people think about the standard marketing strategy. But you need to think beyond that. You need to think beyond just those individual pieces of the puzzle and think of the overall picture and the journey that a customer goes through. And, one quote that I had from Kobe in the book that I thought was very appropriate for this as well, when you talk about aspirational or inspirational products or brands, is that the most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they do. And I love that quote by Kobe because it really goes towards that Just Do It campaign. Obviously, there was an ulterior motive to sell a lot of product, which Nike did, but I also believe there was a strategy around inspiring people at the time. You aspire people to be great. You aspire people to get up off the couch. You aspire people to do what they haven't been able to do through your products. It creates a real loyal base and also a great following with your brand. So you have, find many diversified brands have aspirations like this, as a cornerstone of their ongoing success, long-term generational success, like Nike and Ralph Lauren and so many more, but you can't have a premium brand unless you defined this aspirational positioning and consistently deliver this message and value to your customer, your target customer. And, unfortunately, with the evolution of AI, it made your life a lot easier. It's just a lot of brands that we talk with just refuse to do it. They don't understand it. They don't know how to apply it. But we've told them, if you don't, you are going to lose. If you do, you'll win. And I understand it's a new technology, but one without it, you're going to lose. So fortunately, this can come about organically, staying true to your foundational principles, living up to them authentically through your brand's culture. So if you know who you are, there's no need to fake it. That's why I talk about authentication as a big piece of that puzzle. So I talked about a little bit earlier about that Just Do It campaign with Nike. So in creating this inspirational campaign, this Just Do It campaign, Nike inspired the masses. The intent behind the campaign was to inspire individuals to achieve inspirational goals, with the product being what I call the mechanism to assist them in achieving the goal. This was a brilliant campaign, and it was the first of its kind to drive messaging beyond product, to a desired lifestyle. And people want to be better basketball players. I think they put on a pair of Jordans, it makes them a better basketball player. And many, many people it did. But it just gave them this aspiration through an inspirational message driven through the Just Do It campaign. So it was a brilliant campaign. This would turn out to be a generational campaign that we still talk about today. It was timeless and not specific to sport, gender, race. Just Do It was a campaign to get people active, get them engaged and get them off the couch. So when we talk about brands, whether you're a startup, a brand that currently has aspirational premium positioning, continuing to add fuel to your brand, not through products, but through messaging to your loyal community, letting them know your brand is here to help them achieve their goals, providing value, providing personalization. Brand, product positioning, engagement are pieces of the puzzle to achieving a visionary marketing strategy, and together they'll add to your brand's ongoing fuel and will continue to drive passionate, loyal customers to your brand. And as a result, who knows, you may be a generational brand like the Nikes of the world or the Adidases of the world. It's tough. I'll tell you, it's really tough. And it takes someone at the top, a visionary who understands the future, not only of the brand, but also how to drive loyalty into the customer to make them better at what they aspire to do. So I always say, stay true, stay authentic, be different, and be great. Enjoy the journey along the way. Thank you for listening to the Visionary Chronicles today. Hopefully, if you've enjoyed the Visionary Chronicles as we go through the different subjects that we talk about each week, that you would pass this on to those you know. We've had a lot of great feedback, and we love the feedback from those that are listening to the podcast. Feel free to reach out to me or my team at Liquid Mindsight, LIQUIDMINTSITE.com. We have free meetings. We're also open to listening to questions you might have in regards to what we talk about on the podcast. Hopefully you'd subscribe to the Visionary Chronicles podcast, and easy to follow. We're on every channel that you could imagine on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify. And then we've also in January, actually, we just released a new master course. Very proud of this. With the book's release, we just created the Visionary Brand Master Course. It's a master course at visionaryfiles.com, thevisionaryfiles.com, with over 18 video learning segments and almost 2 hours of video training. So over the past 11 weeks, we've had over 2,000 leaders and entrepreneurs taking the course. So we always say unleash your brand leader and take that master course. It's one that we've gotten a lot of great feedback on, and that again is available at thevisionaryfiles.com. And if you want to reach out to me or my team, just ask questions. You want a free meeting at liquidmindsight.com. Just click on the button down there, free meeting, and we'll be able to set that up with you and answer any questions you might have. Feel free to reach out to me directly at Bryan, Bryan, at liquidmindsight.com, liquidmindsite.com. And we look forward to your feedback. And again, I appreciate your time very, very much. I understand you're very busy. And thank you again for listening to the Visionary Chronicles.